Hello, welcome back to BSX Live. In this episode, we're gonna take a look at how to create this kind of dancing corporate people. Um, I'm just joking. This is just like a basically kind of like a way you can use curve and then instance a bunch of objects on top of the curve. Okay, and this is the one of the really basic example. Um, and it's really simple. I should be able to recreate this from scratch. This is one example. So basically what's happening here, we have a curve object, and curve object in Blender is really special. It's almost like grease pencil. I wish grease pencil can just convert into curve magically, but in this case just start with Bezier curve and then use a geometry nodes modifier on the curve. Here we have like a hidden corporate person. This was actually AI generated. I asked for AI generated Barbie candle. I get this. Anyhow, so the curve, let's start from where. Okay, it's very simple. Curve goes in, resample the curve based on the length. The length can be any number. The bigger the length, the less points you're gonna get. In this case, it's we are really resampling the curve, and then we use curve to points. When you use curve to points, you're gonna get something special. You're gonna have ability to use the point, tangent, normal, rotation. So you get all this for free. In fact, I believe you don't actually need the tangent. You can just sometimes plug in the normal or the rotations directly into the instance. So the instance is going to be aligned on the curve. And yeah, we can rotate the instance and scale the instance whatever we like. So it's really quite simple, and they are all different size because I use this scale instance. Get a quick way to do it, and then they are doing this weird wiggles because we are using the sine wave and the index and time. Okay, this is quite common to happen. Index and time, just to randomize and kind of move the time based on the index of the points. And we have this multiplier and ping pong map range to turn it into value that's kind of works for rotations and so on and so on. Okay, it's very basic. Okay, there's also, I leave these two nodes here, sample curve and domain size, because this can be very useful for different purpose, but they are related to curve. So yeah, what's gonna happen, of course, if I create a chapter on Blender curve, but in relations to geometry nodes, that's gonna be quite a chapter. So if we start with the curve, go to edit mode, curve. The cool thing about curve, we can also control the radius and the tilt of the curve manually, so you can paint that. Let's delete everything. So, and curve also can be used to draw like some kind of paint effects. By the way, if you see this kind of glitch, that's actually because I'm using macOS Sonoma. There's this glitch happening again because I'm using a beta version of the macOS. So geometry nodes. So what can we do with this curve? Once again, resample the curve and curve to points. So the secret is this is the curve to points. Once you turn this into points, it's becoming special because it's curve. You can control the count, and based on the length, maybe the counts of points on the curve. This in itself is already quite powerful. There's a lot of tutorials can be made. Okay. We can make so many tutorials just based on this curve on points on curve. because we can render this if we are using cycles, so it's becoming like a sphere. So this should be like another chapter in itself. You can set radius, set point radius, because it's already points. You set the point radius, but if you can set curve radius that's in relations to curve to mesh, but that's also another kind of tutorial based on the curve chapter. Anyhow, resample curve set point radius. Yeah, okay, that's important. Instance on points. Now the points disappear because we want to instance some things on the points. If we instance cylinder, we're gonna get cylinder. This cylinder needs to be rotated. Transform geometry. And the rotations needs to comes from tangent, I believe. Yep. Based on normal. Based on rotations. This one could already works. It could behave like a, you know, curve, and we can make like a typography based on this. So we can make artwork this way. Maybe draw something. Happy face. And the point radius doesn't have any effects. In this case, curve to points evaluated. Shouldn't we get more from here? Okay, we need to have length. In fact, we can actually skip the resample curve, but I think this is quite important as well. Scale. We have more effects. So either way, use tangent or normal rotations. We can control the rotation of the instance along the curve. Okay, and that's a little bit more tricky is to translate the points on top of the curve itself. So the points, we have all the nodes in relation to curve over here, and sometimes it can get a little bit tricky to understand all of this, but give it a try. Sometimes, okay, set spline type can be useful with curve to make it rounded. Sample, read, yeah. One chapter just talking about the curve is quite a big one. Right. If you resample the curve, I think set position also works on the curve. Random vector. Yeah, see? We are able to randomize the curve in just this way. Random value vector math, multiply and add. So multiply and add is super useful. Okay, I didn't know it. We just need the multiplier just to randomize the points on top of the curve. So if you are making typography that's based on hand drawn, this could be useful. But remember, our curve is actually 3D as well, so you can make anything. Okay, the glitch is from macOS Sonoma. All right, so where have we? Instance on points. I think that's pretty much it. If you want to do like scaling, random scale, scale instances, of course, we can randomize here. Random value, once again, plug into the scale. And rotate instances. This is also useful if you want to rotate this and animate it. Scene time, plug into the rotation. What it's gonna be. Okay. So the curve is really special because along the curve, you see the tilt of the curve also affects the rotations. Line X, Y, Z. Let's select just a single axis to rotate the curve. Yeah, I think it's kind of doing the job. Maybe we should. Yeah, the control of instances over the curve, that's gonna be also one important part with my book if I'm making a book about curve and geometry nodes in Blender. So yeah, like I said, okay, the curve, instances, mesh, points. The volume is a tricky one, but I love the curve geometry the most because it has control over so many things. The mesh, also if you're thinking mesh, it's gonna be like extrusion, things like that. There isn't much. Curve itself, actually, there seems to be like many things going on with the curve, but actually, most of the things actually works on the points. So everything is gonna be how we control points, particles with geometry nodes, with simulations, etc. While the curve itself is powerful, the curve, there are many more curve nodes with SVerchok add-on, with the SVerchok nodes. I really need to mention this because if we are talking about curve, we want to be able to do a lot of things with curve, including like booleans, performing booleans, making all kind of curve and shapes, and then combining the curves, etc. It's almost like Adobe Illustrator, but procedurally done. So lots of SVG operations. It can get slightly tricky. I should make another video just talking about curve and shapes. However, to keep this simple for this video, just understand that the curve, when converted into points, it has some special attributes that you can pass on. So that's really the basic, and you can instance whatever on top of it, including having objects like Suzanne or whatever. This is just the basic. So geometry goes in, you can turn it into instance. Okay, it says sort of like an art, generative art in itself. Oh, procedural art, not exactly generative, but if you pass this into AI, it's gonna be generative art because we don't know what's gonna happen to these abstract things. We can reimagine this as anything else. Okay, the glitch again. Okay. So what else I haven't talked about? Oh, the fact that we can use curve to mesh, and this is also interesting because we don't have revolve. We don't exactly have revolve with curve, procedural curve in geometry nodes, but this is probably one way to do it. Maybe that's for another video. So, but in this case, it's just curve 2 point. That's basically the node that's really powerful, that can handle this kind of thing, like for instancing. All right, so this gonna goes into the book. I just have to type this. Definitely, at least we're gonna end up with 108 chapters in the book, at least, and then yeah, from there, with all the basic, you can do a lot of interesting creative stuff, even with just the basic of Blender and geometry nodes. All right, so thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.